Go ahead.
Alright. For the kingdom of heaven is like a master of a house who went out early in the morning to hire laborers
Yep.
for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for a
Denarius.
a day after he sent them into his vineyard after going out. The third hour he saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And to them he said, "You go into the vineyard and whatever is right, I will give you." Right?
Number 2. You can't. Go ahead.
So they went going out again about the 6th hour, and the 9th hour he did the same. And about the 11th hour he went out and found others standing. And he said to them, "Why do you stand there idle all day?" They said to him, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You go into the vineyard too."
Number 3. Go ahead.
And when evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his owners, "Call the laborers and pay their wages, beginning with the last up to the first." And when those hired about the 11th hour came, each of them received their denarius. Now, when those hired first came, they thought that they would receive more, but each of them also received a denarius.
Number 4. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
And on receiving it, they grumbled at the master of the house, saying, These lads worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne and burden of the day and the scorching heat.
And number 5.
But he replied to one of them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give this last worker as I give to you. I am not allowed to do or what I choose with my belongings to me. Or do you repay my generosity? For the last will be first, and the first will be last."
The point is that the reward is enough. Dylan got the answer correct, right? The reward is enough. Now, whether you have, and some will view it this way, Camden is growing up and apparently already leading singing, and he can't even read the words yet.
Better than his dad.
I can't say it, but you heard it.
Everybody's thinking.
By the time he gets to the end of his life, he'll be like that first worker who was called early and has been working on being good. So what did he miss out on? The song that we sang talked about the pleasures of heaven. The Bible that you read from will also tell you that sin is the pleasures of this life instead. The reward is enough. And if we cannot be happy for those who are going to receive the reward, then we have a heart condition that we need to address. Okay? That's the point of our parable tonight. Do you kind of see that? And did the illustration make sense? If you say no, I might have to do candy next week. All right. See, we got almost all the way through it before I got to the candy part. Okay. Anything from the kids before we move on? All right, progressively more difficult. And this is considered one of the 3 most difficult parables in all of Scripture. And we will get to why in a little bit, I am sure, because I didn't realize my illogical approach to it until I got to doing this study. You'll notice on your handout, number 1, there's a whole bunch of scriptures in there that we might turn to review, but we probably won't. They are pertinent if certain questions get asked, but most of it is, the most applicable ones are the Old Testament ones that we are less familiar with. But if we need them, we got them. If not, we'll move on. Number 2 is the structure of the parable. There is the formulate of the kingdom of heaven is like. The reason that the kingdom of heaven is like is because of the things that are around the teaching. Look in there. What's going to come up next? Can you give my child a position of honor? Later on in chapter 20. And as this parable closes, you have what's considered by some not even to be part of the parable. Those who are last shall be first, and those who are first shall be last. So some people don't consider that to be part of this, but part of the start of the next thing. Most people consider verse 16 to be part of our parable. In our parable, we have the sequence of hirings, the payment, the complaint of justice, and then the defense of the goodness. If you disagree with this, we can address that. There are some that will discuss how this is actually cheating certain laborers because of what you're paying to other laborers, namely like Devin. If Devin was told a thing instead of actually having to sing like Dylan, then Dylan was cheated. And so that's not the way that this parable is given. It's convoluted, okay? It's an argument you may have to defend if you get into that deep of a Bible study. I'm just letting you know that's why I'm going over this structure with you. As long as this looks good to you, that's going to save me a lot of explanation. So, and if you have something come up later that you're like, hey, let me know, and we'll talk about it. All right. There are 3 things that are extra in this parable that do not make sense. The one is the time involved in going back and forth to the market. Okay, what kind of car did the dude get in? The master or the king or the vineyard owner. What kind of car did he get in to go to market? Doesn't say. Probably didn't get in a car. He's an Israelite, maybe. What did he ride? This is a good one. You can answer this one. What animal might he have ridden?
Camel.
A camel, maybe. A donkey, likely also as well. Not a horse. He's going back and forth to the market. He's there at...
Would he be carrying something, wanting to travel with something to haul stuff, perhaps a cart of some sort?
to haul the workers back.
Yes.
Either way, they're walking. The point is that with the 3-hour interval, the story reads like he's going back and seeing there's more work to be done. So he's going to hire more laborers. We're not going to get this done today. I need more people. The story doesn't really work. Like, how close is the vineyard to the marketplace? And if he's at the marketplace, why can't he just motion? If you want to find fault with it, this is a place you could find fault with it. Number 2, if he goes there every 3 hours or so, why doesn't he see the laborers already standing around? Are they just keeping on showing up? Oh, I woke up late. I'm here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a thing that is a little bit extra. And number 3, the third thing is that nobody's going to pay for the last hour of work the whole day's wage. That's too much to give for 1 hour's worth of work. So those things don't make sense. Here's what does make sense. It's a parable. Everything is not supposed to line up every time. Okay? You're not supposed to say, this is exactly like this, and here is why this is exactly like that. Okay? Does that make sense? You want to try to do it anyway, because this is the part we like to do. Since it is not... Did I leave this last the paragraph in there? All difficulties that can be found... All difficulties that can be found with the parable, except that of the equal pay, are immaterial to the point of the parable. The point of the parable is what? It is the equal pay. Okay. Parables use things of this world to illustrate a point, usually a singular point. The point of this parable is not the side bits of information, rather that God rewards equally. Okay? Any question? What do you think they are? Yes, ma'am.
Would it also be that it's limited time that it was offered? The man that was offering the pay, he obviously had this day in time that he needed whatever work done. That pay for that work was limitedly offered. He didn't say, okay, and y'all come back the next day. He said, no, it needs to be done now. So it was a limited time offer, just as the kingdom, your opportunity to come in and accept that, it's limited time offer too within our lifetime.
Those are some of the side points where, while it's appropriate, while it's accurate, not the point of our parable. We can recognize it. We can understand that in the context of the greater, not part of the parable. So what are some of the other ones that are listed here? Not the point of the parable, but some of those side things. What is the point of going back and forth to the market? Maybe the point. Are you standing in front of people who are not saved and screaming at them daily? Or offering salvation, rather, to them daily? Or do they get it from time to time? They have the opportunity. You might wait till tomorrow, which is no longer the day, which was Wendy's point, a good one. There are a lot of these on the side. I just wanted to give you an opportunity. This is the way I've been taught this parable in the past. I'm here to hear it.
You were heard the word, you were given the opportunity at several different times. Some of them take it early in their life. Some of them they wait and they take it midday, middle of their life. People can accept this offer at different times in their life.
Is that the way this is usually taught? This parable? Yeah? We're going to talk about that. That's number 5. Okay, we're going to get there. We're almost there, actually. Number 4, I wanted to point out, because I don't have a problem pointing out when texts are difficult to read. The ESV says, do you begrudge my generosity? There is a word in there that they are not translating for you or giving you if you have the ESV. The word I is in there. It is ophthalmeus or off. It's the Greek word that means ophthalmic, which is eyeball. It means eyeball. It doesn't mean the ability to see your vision or something like that. It means eyeball. It is used when Jesus says, if your right eyeball offends you, pluck it out. Okay? Same word. It's also the word that Jesus uses in Matthew chapter 6. And he says that the eye is the lamp of the body. So, if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Back at how far does light go through your eyeball? Where does it go after that? Nowhere. It's turned into what?
Vision? Oh, no. Not an eye doctor. Not an eye doctor.
Keep praying for Becca. Her job got pushed back. The light comes into your eyeball. It's turned into neurological signal. It's transmitted through nerves. The light doesn't go past your eyeball. It's a metaphor, right? Meaning that the things that you put into your body matter and they make up who you become. It matters what you watch. It matters what you see and what you look at. It doesn't mean that your insides glow because you stare at the sun. That's not the point of this. So, back to the translation, or the translations that were given. The point is the generosity and being, pick your word, covetous, greedy. I had 2 or 3 extras. Hold on. Envious, greedy, or boasting about what you dig it. Devin could be over here bragging that he didn't have to say a word. All he had to do was listen, and he got candy. And he could point at Dylan and go, That would be, the opposite side, but it still works. Anyway, the word eyeball is supposed to be in there. I think the New American Standard renders this the most appropriately. Or is your eye envious because I am generous? Plus it rolls out. Sounds pretty poetic. Anyway, that's why that's in there. Also, if you're reading from the New King or Old King James, that's why the word I is in there. It's about how you perceive the interaction. Okay? How you perceive the reward to be given. So that's the point of our parable anyway, right? And that's why we're here, and it's actually why I bring it up more than anything else. How do you perceive your salvation? Something I got and you're not invited? Is something I got and certain people ought not be saved? Those are, again, heart conditions. They're eye conditions. There are other places where this metaphor is used. In Proverbs chapter 22, we're told about a beautiful eye, or rather a bountiful eye. Whoever has a bountiful eye will be blessed, for he shares his bread with the poor. Again, the reason I'm bringing this up is it's the opposite of envy, greed, boasting, or me over you. And then in Proverbs 23, again, the ESV does not have the word I. He calls him stingy. The New King James calls him a miser. But the Old King James includes the word I for us, an evil eye. And so, again, the reason I'm bringing all this up is I want you to think of the word perception. This is how I perceive salvation from my life and whether I should be giving it to anyone else or its value to be shared. Okay? Good. All right, go home. The parable has about 7 different interpretations that I read. Some of them get pretty nonsensical, to be nice about it. There are 2 main ones, and one of them we've already almost talked about, and we'll discuss both of them. Interpretation number 1 is that these are time frames of successive ages of the world. The time frame and the covenant that goes from Adam to Noah. The time frame from Noah to Abraham. The time frame from Abraham to Moses. The time frame from Moses to Christ. And then the time frame from Christ, and it usually says to present, but I will go ahead and tell you that's from Christ until the end of the world. Now, if you're in there with me on Sunday morning, you're already seeing that there are rules that are laid down, but we're not told what they are, but we have to know that there are rules because they get punished when they don't do the rules. That's what these are talking about. These time frames may be the 5 opportunities that the guy goes back and forth. That doesn't make any sense to me. The other way that works is the same thing, though. It's whether or not you hear the word and accept it at childhood, at adolescence, in the prime of life, in your old age, or on your deathbed. And those are the 5 that are typically listed there. Wendy discussed that at a little bit there for us just a moment ago, and we nodded that is the way we typically get taught this parable, right? Yes, sir.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. The way I understood it when I've done some of the things that I studied for when I had to do the lesson over it but I think it's about like the different stages of life, but it's also about the people who look at those people who get received salvation at different stages in their life. You understand that people receive it at different points in their life, but some of those people who receive it early look at others who receive it late and say, well, I've missed out on all of the pleasures of the world because I was trying to be a faithful servant, and they got to enjoy all of the fruits of this world, and then they waited to the very end and got it, and now they get the same reward I get, and I've been faithful my whole life. So I feel like it's a little bit of both.
Okay. I agree. I accept what you're saying. I'll tell you why I disagree with the premise in a minute. Anybody else? Let's go ahead and talk about this one for a moment. Here's why I disagree with it, and I did not. I would have accepted. I thought that too. The problem is what you're teaching at point is it's okay to do this later. There will be 5 points. There are 5 points. There will be 5 points. Problem is there aren't 5 points. Some people never make it to old age. Some people never make it to the prime of their life. And some people have no opportunity on their deathbed. They won't have a deathbed. They will get in a car crash and they will just be dead or a whatever. First of all, the 5 points meaning at whatever time in your life. And I understand you can pull those back and say, well, it just means that whenever you accept it in your life. Any way that you go with that, you're saying that there will be a reward, just keep putting it off. If you choose to, it will be okay because as long as you accept it later. Now that's true. It is true, right? As long as you accept it at some point in your life, the reward is the reward. That is a true statement. I'm not saying that it's not. But this is a teaching.
I didn't mean this. I didn't mean for it to say like I was saying that that's what it meant, but or that's what I feel like it's trying to teach you, because we know that tomorrow is not promised or anything like that, and I think that you can point back to verses like that to say that that's why this isn't teaching that.
Well, I think and the way I understood it as well, we get the closest when we talk about the attitude that's in the parable. Because that's what the parable ends with. That is the end point of the parable. He calls them together in verse 8. He gives them their wages. Verse 10, now when those hired first came, they thought they would receive more, but each of them received also a denarius, and on receiving it, they grumbled at the master of the house. So there's a couple of ways that this can be accepted then, if we're talking about when people accept the gospel. Number one, we're going to argue with God in heaven, or on Judgment Day, that we're not getting a better heaven than other people. Okay? That doesn't make sense, right? We're going to argue with God on Judgment Day that we're not getting a better heaven than someone else. Now, the problem is that there are denominations that teach this, that there are better levels of reward, and then we would even joke about, I think there's an old country song about being a janitor in heaven. I'd rather be a janitor in heaven than, and I don't remember. The problem is the attitude, though, in the parable. That's where we get to whenever the rewards are being handed out. So the work is promised. The guy comes, it's God that comes and says, would you like to accept this? The work is done and it's over and the payment is going to be made. The payment is being made. The problem is the attitude. We're good until we get to the attitude problem, right? Everything in the story is actually going pretty well, and you start to see ideas of generosity until we get to the attitude of the individuals. That's where I went, oh, that makes more sense. It made more sense to me. The parable is directed against envy, greed, boasting, or any such thing amongst Jesus' disciples. That is something you said in your explanation. That is a way that you phrased it, that we are upset because we're missing out on the pleasures of this life. That's the point of the parable. Not when people can be converted. Agreed, people can be converted on their deathbed. I got no problem with that. The point of this parable is the attitude toward someone who would come in later. Someone who would come on their deathbed or come in hungover to be saved. Yes, ma'am.
Would you agree that this is, about self-reflection?
I think it calls for it, yeah.
Because if you were saying, what you just said was you agree that it is against being the envy, against the boasting, right?
Yes.
So this is about our own salvation's self-reflection. Worry about yourself and your salvation. Yes, try to bring more people in, But don't get haughty about your salvation. And I think those examples are reflected in the later writings that we read about, whenever the early Christians was like, I was taught by this person, and I was taught by this person. They was trying to say, and they kept, and whoever, was it Paul?
Paul and Apollos.
Paul, they came in and they was like, you better watch yourself, because that's where you're getting prideful. That is one of those things too, So you better be careful about our salvation. It is fragile. We need to take care of it. And sometimes we can get caught up in certain things like those people were. They weren't focused on their salvation and building that, the ones that we're talking about Paul. And we don't need to get caught up in, I've been coming here for so long, and I've been doing this, and I've been doing that. And they're over here, getting glory because maybe they're new, or they've returned, or whatever. We need to, that's a self-focused kind of issue on our own salvation.
That's kind of what we studied.
Good.
That's kind of what we studied last week, was taking care of your brother and loving one another, and kind of same thing. So here, and I think it's safe to say that a majority of people have had that negative thought at some point in time in their Christian life. Some sort of, I can't believe they're a Christian, I can't believe they became a Christian, or something to that effect. As terrible human beings that we all are sometimes, you have those thoughts, and that's teaching us about those thoughts, I feel like.
So you know someone who's a Christian, and they're a bad Christian. You know they're a bad Christian. You would tell them that, I really hope that you're working on this thing in your life. You would pray for them regularly. And they die. And you know that they have the opportunity to be saved. They have received salvation, and you're just like, yeah, but they're going to rely on the mercy of God to overlook a multitude of sins. Right? Okay? This hypothetical person, you're going to be disappointed when you get to heaven having tried as hard as you can and they made it too. That's this. They made it too? What do you mean they made it too? They were a lousy example, lousy witness.
They're focused on the wrong thing, though.
That's this. Go ahead. I'll cut you off. I'm sorry.
They're focused on the wrong thing. The point is to get there, not to worry about who's there or what they got or how far they are ahead of me. I just think, if they're focused on that, they ain't focused on what it truly means to be there.
That's not normal for humans to be able to do that. Okay. Prodigal son goes off. Prodigal son returns. How is the other brother? What's his attitude? This. That's this. And you go, why, man, you should be celebrating with your father. That one's easy. That again is this parable. Yes, sir.
I got another example. My uncle, he died of cancer, but he got saved toward the end of his life. And I truly believe that he did. So, and I was thrilled. I didn't think, you've lived most of your life, and and now you're asking for it. Those thoughts never entered my mind. I was just happy he finally accepted the Lord. I mean, that's all that mattered to me.
Any other questions, comments on this parable? We have 2 more parables. You only get 2 more weeks of this awesomeness. And then you need to talk to your elders about what you want to do after that. If they hadn't decided yet. They hadn't told me whether they decided yet or not. So talk to them. There's 2 more parables. Does anybody have the list in front of them? What's next?
The 2 sons.
The 2 sons. Which 2 sons? What's the scripture?
Matthew 21, 28 through 31.
You'll have to look at that because that doesn't jog my memory too much. Thank you.